Hi, my name is Ono. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm from Dayfire, and I'm here with Danielle.
Hi, my name is Danielle. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm currently in Berlin.
Amazing. So thank you, Danielle, for joining us. Sweet. So I guess I wanted to launch straight in. So you've recently become a mother. Yeah, talk us through how you've been navigating, I guess, motherhood, but also being trans, because that's not something we see often, and it's something very new, to navigate.
Yeah, at first I found it quite difficult. It was quite weird going through the whole medical process side, like being trans and also like people are already identifying you in a certain way and seeing you in a certain way and like you having conversations about what the baby's going to call you when you have two moms and all of this stuff. But to be honest, we had a really amazing midwife group who were all trans. We had a trans midwife group.
Yeah.
And they were amazing. They were like rock solid, like the best people we could ever have gotten. I couldn't really believe we had them. And outside of that, trying to navigate while trans, I don't think it's really hit us yet because we haven't really been outside because of COVID.
Mm,
Um, and I think it's going to hit us more when we start walking around with the baby more. Like
yeah.
we've done some trips, but not much has been said because no one's really approached us because of
Mm,
right
yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, we're having to do like in Germany. I had to do a something called like a fatherage, stuff like that.
Right.
And basically in Germany, like the father has to claim the child.
Okay.
Um, so I had to do that, and it was really weird.
Yeah.
And it's just a very binary system, very sexist here as well.
Mm,
And so it's just quite difficult having to do all of those things
mhm.
when all you want to do is look after your baby, but they're making you identify in a certain way to even have rights to look after your baby.
Yeah.
Very weird.
Yeah. But what I guess like how was it to share like I guess parenthood with another like your partner who's also trans and is also black? Like what has that meant to you to build a family centered around blackness and transness and like queerness?
Yeah, it's been really exciting. It's been really exciting. It feels I don't want to say this, but it feels really like new. Often it feels like we're going into something where we don't have many role models
Mm,
to look at and to refer to.
yeah.
Clearly, like we can look at these people that we admire, um, but before Chance was born, I made this like leaflet
Yeah.
about how to be a trans mother, and I was
Yeah.
just wishing that I could see other trans mothers so I could just take from them and talk to them and share experiences and worries of how like your child's going to see you and all of this other stuff and what happens at school. Will your child be embarrassed about you? These kind of questions. But there's not really I haven't come across those groups or a community of trans parents
Yeah.
that's so, at least that's so open,
Mm,
Usually there's like one in a deep ocean of cis parents. And
yeah.
so that's been quite challenging, I would say, from both our ends, just in terms of when we're trying to come at things from a gender neutral perspective, and often everything's pushing specific genders, like even toys and clothes and all of
Yeah.
this stuff. I think we're really excited for what's to bring, but we want to make
Yeah.
sure that it's the best kind of upbringing and the best kind of environment to enable her to make her own choices
Yeah.
on these things that society is just kind of plonking on top of her.
Yeah, of course. And I guess like I think that this kind of like trans to trans kind of politics you have isn't just in your like relationships, but also like I remember you were in a share house when I saw you in London, and it was all black trans creatives with you. Yeah, what does that like sisterhood mean to you, and how is that kind of formative in shaping who you are? I guess.
Yeah, for me, trans people are family.
Yeah,
We help each other get to where we want to get to.
yeah,
I often say that your sisters see you before you see yourself,
mm,
and I always feel like when you have a wavering moment where like gender dysphoria really gets you to you, or you're feeling you just can't feel or see who you actually are. Your sisters are always there to already see it, and they don't have. It's not about them saying that. It's about their actions towards you and how they treat you and how they don't question anything that you're questioning in your head all the time. And for me, that's something that really keeps me going. It's like the life force of me. Like I never say like it's me that's driving myself. It's this sisterhood, this community of people that have already seen me before I've even understood what that means. Allow me to walk into something and live my truth, you know?
Yeah. I guess like because yeah, I was in London 2 years ago, and kind of growing up here, there's a trans community, but it's very white. You don't see many black or brown like trans bodies. So the UK was my first time I met other black and brown trans people. And you're kind of like a very like a pivotal person in my growth in terms of coming into my transness. Because I think you were the first person that kind of like what you were saying, like there was no judgments. I didn't feel like I needed to perform masculinity or needed to present a certain way for you to like validate my gender and transness, which was like, yeah, so formative to me. But I guess like, do you notice a difference being intimate with like another trans or, you know, another black person versus being intimate with someone who's cis or, you know, not black?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been intimate with a cis person in a long time.
Keep it that way.
There's like and this may sound really simple, but it feels like there's a conversation that happens beforehand when you're trans, and it's not a conversation that's always spoken. Sometimes it is. Something that I feel like sometimes when you're a cis people, they feel like, right, we're having sex, I can go all over your body. And with a trans person, I feel like there's like a negotiation of where to go and what feels good and how to pleasure your partner, how to make your partner feel good, rather than what you assume will make them feel good. And for me, that's a really key difference in like having sex with a trans person, is that they want to make you feel good completely, rather than from like an assumption of what sex should be and looks like, and what should be touched and what shouldn't.
Yeah, I think people forget how coded sex is in gender. Like, you know, even the whole like discourse of tops and bottoms, and a submissive partner and dominant partner. And I feel like, I think when you're intimate with another trans person, yeah, those assumptions kind of get thrown out the door. Like you kind of are like making your own rules, and yeah, like you said, navigating what makes you feel good. Yeah, that's what so I agree with you there. I guess I guess because you don't have the template for like what, you know, trans motherhood looks like, how have you guys like pieced it together? Like has it been like drawing from bits and pieces here and there, or just like inventing something newly entirely?
Yeah, I think I don't know, before I was thinking that we would have to like reinvent the wheel, but actually it's led by your child. Chance leads motherhood, like leads it. Like something that I didn't expect is that a lot of this becomes instinctual. Like a lot of the things become like instinctual things you want to do. And it's strange because there's a lot of tasks with having your children, but none of them feel like a chore because you want to do them. And that's something that I wish I had known before, instead of like panicking about it, because Chance tells me what she needs. She tells me when she wants me. She tells me how she wants me. She tells me what I need to do from her. She doesn't really leave anything up to interpretation because it's one of things. And so I feel like it's like for me, it's forming that bond. Like the thing of learning is like forming that bond, spending time playing with her, spending time looking at her, spending time changing her, spending time soothing, spending time making her laugh. Like those things where I learn the most about her and learn the most about trans motherhood, and that your child doesn't judge you because all the assumptions that come from other people aren't natural and they're not born into your baby. And
Yeah.
so when she looks at us, she's looking at two Black trans mums
Yeah.
and not understanding anything about that and doesn't need to.
Mm.
And so that kind of brings me hope in that she doesn't need to understand what these words mean because she already knows that we can do a good job for her and we can care for her.
Yeah, it's like completely natural to her. It's not something you blink an eye at all.
Right.
Yeah, I guess how was it like? Because you briefly talked about having doulas who are like also trans as well. Did you also feel that there was like a lot of things you just didn't need to explain to them? There was just like this mutual understanding of how to respect your body and like respect your identity and so on.
Yeah, well, it wasn't like an understanding. Like they would just ask everything. They asked like
Okay, yeah,
what Adrian's body wants to be called, what part of their body wants to be called, and because they had to get really intimate with Adrian because
yeah.
Adrian was going to be giving birth,
Mm,
they learn how to talk about Adrian's body through a load of questions, and it was like a really thorough understanding of who you are before they approached you. And that's
mm,
something I really appreciated. There was no assumptions of what would make you feel comfortable and what kind of language would. They literally went through the process of learning how to speak to us.
right.
Um, and that was amazing. Like you could see the work they put in, and it was really amazing.
Yeah, it almost sounds like a utopia. Like it doesn't feel real when I'm hearing this. Like I didn't know something like this could exist. Um, but yeah, actually, like you and Adrian, seeing you guys share like your story online, that's actually the first time I've seen trans parenthood, like from someone I've known like personally. Usually I've seen it in the media. So yeah, it's been like incredibly powerful to witness. So yeah, it takes like a lot of vulnerability to be that open. So I guess like thank you for that. Yeah. Yeah, I think the other thing that I watched an interview between you and Adrian, and you guys were talking about how in your own ways you've come into motherhood in other ways, like whether it was, I think your partner runs a house for other like queer, Black and brown people. And even yourself, like something I picked up on in London was you're quite like instinctively maternal. Like you just like have an awareness of other people and how they're feeling, and also like I feel like having like a nurturing need to you. So like did it feel like something that you weren't prepared for? Did it kind of just kind of come instinctively to you guys?
Yeah, like I felt it is weird. That is like a good point you bring up. I feel like for me naturally, like I definitely feel like I'm someone that likes to be caring.
Yeah.
Um, and likes to give support in that way. Obviously, I can't give support in every way, but I like to see myself as like someone who is like strong enough to be able to give support for people who need it,
Yeah.
and I like to be that kind of mom.
Mm.
So when it comes to parents, like I don't know, like when I found out Adrian was pregnant, I didn't feel like my life was ending. I didn't feel like
Yeah.
my things were gonna have to stop. I didn't feel like any of that. I was just like, okay, this is part of life. It just happens. Like that's fine.
Yeah.
And I feel like I don't know what exactly to call that, but maybe that's a maternal instinct. Maybe that's just something I have in me that like I know. For me, I feel like Black trans people can deal with anything, so I can deal with anything.
Yeah.
And Adrian is extremely mothering. She's a great mom.
Right.
And they have been always about making sure that the people around them that they care about have enough to survive. So whether that's finding jobs for them, making a house so that they made a house so that they could pay the people around them. Like that's literally why they did it.
Yeah.
And for me, their mothering is making sure that everything around you, one, that has a community, and two, has some sort of sustainability to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that comes like I don't know if that comes natural to them, that they need to make sure of that, and so they make sure that's there.
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting because like setting up day 5 here, I've kind of had to become I don't know, gender neutral parent. I don't know the language yet. But I think it's kind of out of survival, at least for me, that I've had to kick into a mode of having to be a mentor and, providing for others, like making sure people get paid for their gigs and, making sure that like the group and like this collective and this community can run. And I think so often it falls on, predominantly in the queer community, on, Black trans women and femmes. And I think it's no surprise because I think, as a community, you guys have had to like kick into that survival mode. And yeah, I guess, and you touched on that. I guess what if you had to like describe your community to people, like how would you describe it? Like how would you describe what it means to you? How would you describe like the like power and its history? And yeah, so that's a lot in there. But yeah.
If I were if I were to describe my community, Jesus, I would say, oh my God.
Sorry, I didn't make it easy for you.
I mean, I would say my community is kind of like an unstoppable force. No one in my community is given anything, they're always making sure they can get something, but they're never given it. And so there's this kind of work ethic that means that they literally, when one rises, the others will rise with them, and they can only bring along those around them because it's never been about the self. It's never been about just them. One person doing a good job in this community means that other people in that community will do better because that person will spread it out. And there's always this thing about, bringing those who are with you, and not leaving them behind, because if you do leave them behind, you will have no one again. And that's the thing about our community, is that I feel like we're so unstoppable because we've had to teach ourselves everything. We've had to hustle for everything. We've had to jump through so many hoops to get into this position. And we disseminate that information only for our peers and for those that love us. We just, like, if I needed a coder, I'll find a Black trans coder. If I needed a web designer, there's a Black trans web designer. If I needed a clothes designer, there's a Black trans clothes designer. Like, everyone in my community knows how to do something and has taught themselves how to do it. And that's why I think that's an unstoppable bunch of people. They're just so dedicated to actually being able to support themselves, because no one else would, but also being able to support each other.
And I guess, yeah, you center that in all your work. Could you like talk about, I guess, why it's so important to you to like archive and create space to share Black trans narratives, especially like in a digital space as well?
Oh God. Yeah. So for me, I grew up with no representation of Black trans people at all. I actually didn't know what trans was until someone called me trans.
Okay, right.
Like, I didn't even understand what the word trans meant. And someone called me trans, and I didn't get. They said, "You're trans femme," and I said, "I don't know what that means. Like, I don't even know what that language is." And so for me, I wanted to build something that had our representation in it, so we could see ourselves reflected. And that didn't just mean having a picture of us and telling us, "I'm trans too," but it meant us being able to invent narratives and stories and embed ourselves within them, and have narratives hold us and be able to hold all of our existence on top of a story. Something about telling a fictional story with trans people, to me, feels like an ultimate form of archiving, because not only can you hold the existence of a trans person and their history, but you can also build on it and build and imagine a future or a past. And to me, that's why I find it so important to make this work that centers Black trans people, because knowing that we can build this kind of representation in this world of transness is something that I've wanted to see for my whole life, and I know we need. And I'm hoping that someone will come along and see it and then be like, "Danielle, you're doing a rubbish job," and do a much better job. And something about something about Afrofuturism. It's like, I don't call my work Afrofuturist, but there's a mundane Afrofuturistic, I can't remember the words now, manifesto, and it said, we're building things in the present so people in the future can reference back to it. And that's what I want to do, is I want to archive those around me, store and center those around me, so that Black trans people in the future have work and images and references and stories of Black trans people that they can take and use as a foundation to make something even better.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. Yeah, it's incredibly powerful work. And I think it goes beyond like the sort of classic, so often when Black trans, you know, people are portrayed, it's so often in the sort of the grief and violence. You never see sort of Black trans joy ever centered. And that's like something I've noticed a lot in your work, is you center like a multifaceted narrative. It's not just, you know, the grief and violence, it's also the joy, the community and stuff. And it's tremendous work. I guess, I think, thank you for joining us. It means a lot. Hopefully we can bring you to Australia sometime soon. But for now, I'll have to be virtually. But thank you again, Danielle. It's a pleasure.
Oh, stop it.